I make art because I have to. I don't know if you would call it compulsion or being driven, but definitely if I'm not making art, I'm not happy. Almost to the point of not being well. It's compulsion. You have to admit to it. Yeah. Sometimes I don't know what I'm doing. I'm just doing. It has a health benefit, mental and even physical. And definitely art therapy comes into the play. And I never really thought of that as in a form until I lost a granddaughter and went to see a grief therapist, and we actually used art therapy as part of my recovery from that. That's part of what I've done in my life, is used art to get through emotions or get through sometimes hard periods of my life. I think of it as a wonderful tool. When you're angry, you can make nasty, horrible paintings in black and dark and throw all your emotions at them. And when you're happy, you can make happy, lovely, colorful, wonderful things. And you know what the wonderful thing, there's another side to every piece of paper, and you can always paint over a canvas. I used to have a kind of a problem with people saying everybody is an artist. And I'm not sure that that's true. Everybody should have the opportunity to explore that part of themselves, or to have the opportunity to look at art. That's something that we're not being very good at in Canada and the US. It's devastating in the school system that they're dropping a lot of the arts. And we all think that money is more important. You go to school to come out with a job that earns you a living. I don't know if it's just economic or if it's a fear of artists, because artists are always the ones that are pushing the envelope and asking questions and putting out ideas that are not necessarily what the world wants to look at. And that's a pity. Art is important to us in so many ways we can't possibly name. We do it for many different reasons. As many reasons as there are people, maybe. To me, it's a given. So my ultimate dream as an artist, as I always said, was to have somebody come to my studio and take away everything I do and sell it or do something with it, and just give me enough money that I can keep on painting. And luckily I've had enough that I can keep on painting, but unfortunately I've built up a big reserve of work that is kind of stuffing up cupboards and walls and whatever. And I've read a lot of my life, listened to a lot of music, and done a vast amount of paintings, which if you go through my studio, you'll see piles and piles and piles of painting. So the joke in my family is, you're really going to be very wealthy, or you're going to have one hell of a bonfire. See, the best part of my day, getting into the studio, turning on classical music, and just getting color and paint and disappearing into my own little world. I work in many media, did jewelry, done sculpture, but I still am a painter primarily. People ask you, are you an abstract painter or are you a landscape painter? And I say, I'm just a painter. And sometimes I paint landscape, and sometimes I paint abstract, very abstract, and I don't want to be put into a genre. And that's a very frustrating part to me, is how do you define it? Because I don't think it's something you can define. So you're left with this conundrum. I make art, but what is art? You define it. Other than being beautiful and in nature, which I've always found inspiration in, I believe I could be anywhere and create and find a subject matter. You shouldn't have to wait for, some bolt of lightning to come upon you. It does happen, but it's also a daily discipline. I keep a sketchbook with me mostly every day. I sketch, draw. Even though I believe in studying all the time, I'm never adverse to taking another course, another class, because you never know what you're going to learn. You're always learning. That's one of the great pleasures of my life. I really believe that the most important part of fine art, if you want to call it fine art, is drawing. I think drawing is the basis of everything. I had once a professor that said, think of something that hasn't been on a drawing board before it arrives. Architects draw, engineers draw, sculptors draw, fashion designers draw. And I started really young. I came from a family of artists, thankfully. I can't ever remember not creating in some way. One of my earliest memories is getting crayons and paper and crawling in behind the kitchen stove at my grandma's house and just staying there for hours and hours, drawing and making stories and drawing pictures. So there's never a time when I didn't feel myself as an artist. I had this very supportive family that art was just what you did, how you earned your living. My 13th birthday, I was given Willie Proganet's life drawing, and it was all nude drawing. And somebody questioned me one day, who ever thought of giving that to a 13-year-old girl to be exposed to that? But to me, it was nothing. It was just drawing. My uncle started me off at about 10 informal lessons, and I was trained early on in kind of an old-fashioned way to learn my craft. How to care for your brushes, how to prepare a canvas, even how to sharpen a pencil properly. I'm very thankful that it was a very good grounding and a very good basis to my life. And that's what technique should be for an artist. It's your grounding, how to handle your paints and your brushes and your canvas and the quality of your work. And one of the things, sometimes if you hit a thing where things aren't working, or if it is a problem of just not getting the right feeling, then I find that I'll go from watercolor to acrylic, or go back to pure drawing for a period of time, because you can get very facile in something, and that's not good, because I don't want to do that. I want to have thought go into it. It has to have some kind of meaning. So you have to sometimes throw yourself back into a river, so it's not so easy. Just sometimes if things get too easy, then they're not good. You have to have a little bit of a fight with the canvas or with the paint, or with whatever you try to do. Sometimes it's good to go back and go through that technique, and then you sort of are starting over again. And then you can loosen up and do, very free work. And that should be something you don't always have to think about. When you say you get into the zone and stuff flows. Sometimes you have to let go of technique. Getting in that zone is really lovely. The most satisfaction is in the making. We're starting with the struggle and then having it flow into something wonderful. And then resolving it. That's the best part. But the end, it's always sort of that struggle, I think, or that work that is satisfying. Not necessarily the end, because the end it's done, and then you want to go on to the next thing. I always think of Hornby as this special little, very strange little part of the world, this little island. It's just kind of a magical place. Hornby is a very accepting place for an artist. A lot of very creative people here, and also very strong community of people that are interested in the arts. I think wherever you are, if you're in the big city or in a tiny little village or in the middle of nowhere by yourself, you have to just make your own way. You get accepted or you don't get accepted. I've always basically done what I wanted to do, and I've been a proponent of women having equal rights. Maybe I'm sort of a very down-to-earth, practical person. I do what I do. I've been very lucky in that I'm almost never had to do anything else but be an artist. I never wanted to be anything else. That's what I do, and that's what I am, and I think that's just the bottom line. You create and paint because that's who you are.